Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum to all, and welcome back with another amazing episode of Fahad's Journey Talk Show. I'm your host Fahad AIWala, and I'm your host Fahad Jobswala, and I'm student and interview captain at Rehan School Online Academy. As you all know, we always come up with amazing guests, from all over the world. We invite them, and they're absolutely working on to make this world a better place, and they're doing something, for that. They're participating in this, and which is very amazing thing, and which I really appreciate them, for doing this. So as well as as always, we have an amazing and incredible guest, the person who visited Pakistan and who lived in Islamabad, Pakistan's capital Islamabad, for not only some weeks, for not only some months. He spent his 3 years in Pakistan, Islamabad, which is very amazing, and I'm very excited to explore his experiences in Pakistan and all that. And so our today's guest is CIA intelligence, you know, and I'm very excited to speak with him. He not only, in one job, he tried different jobs, and from education. He is former CIA intelligence officer. He is public speaker on leadership, intelligence and security, adventure seeker, and much more. So, hi Jeff, how are you? And welcome to the show.
I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking. Thank you very much for having me on this show. And how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks for asking. And it's Ramadan, so it's very amazing, and we are doing fasting and all that. So
Ramadan
it's
Mabruk.
it is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Um. So yeah, Jeffrey, can you first tell about can you tell us about yourself, about your story, and all that?
Sure. I grew up on a small farm in Ohio. Um, I went to Ohio State University for 2 years, and then I dropped out and joined the Peace Corps because I really didn't like my family and I wanted to get as far away from them as possible. So I joined the Peace Corps and I went to Tunisia in North Africa. I was there for 2 years working on farm machinery. From there, I didn't have anything else to do but go back to Ohio. So I did what they call extend and transfer, where I transferred to a different country with the Peace Corps. This time I went to Gabon, which is right in Central Africa, right on the equator. I was there for a year and a half. Excuse me. I was there for a year and a half, and then I went to university back in Texas. I went to Sam Houston State University, where I finished my bachelor's and my master's degrees. And then from there, my first job with a master's degree in agriculture science was working at a turkey processing plant in Waco, Texas. And I knew that was not going to be my career after about the second day there. It was not what I wanted. So I looked around and eventually I found a company that was interested in um, setting up their business and doing marketing in India. This would have been right after Indira Gandhi. So it was still very, very tough for US companies to do business in India. So I went there and I spent 3 years there. We sold one major irrigation system, but mostly we discovered it was very economical and good business to manufacture the plastic components for our irrigation systems in India and export them to the United States. And so that was what I ended up doing, setting up that business arrangement. After 3 years there, it was decided that my job was done and I was free to move back to the United States. I did that and eventually found a job in Greece because I like the international environment. So I went to Athens for 2 years. The company was supposedly investing in a latex glove manufacturing company. That proved to not be successful. They didn't have the money or the skill set to do it. So that after 2 years, I went back to the US. I went back to Texas, which is where my now ex-wife was from. And I knew Texas well, and I like Texas. So we went back to Austin, Texas. And while I was there, I got a continuing education degree. I already had a bachelor's, I already had a master's. I didn't really want to do another master's degree. So I got a certification in telecommunications management. Keep in mind, this was when the internet was just coming on. It was still, if you believe Al Gore, it was still very much a twinkle in Al Gore's eye. So it was starting up. So the job I got with another company after 3 years was to go to the Middle East and work on pipeline control systems and network management systems. It's the same technology to do pipeline control and network management control. It's same. So I went there, and for the next 5.5 years, I traveled pretty much every place in the Middle East and worked with the oil companies and our local partners to sell them pipeline control systems or network management systems. For example, in Syria, where I went quite frequently, they don't have much of a pipeline, but they do have very sophisticated telecommunications systems. And so I worked with that country, with our local rep in that country, to provide them consulting services and other business services in the area of the telecommunications network management. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, obviously, it's oil and gas, the pipeline control systems. So I did that. And then after about 5.5 years, I moved back to the US. My job there was done. So I came back and I decided to shift careers and see if I could have a career working for the US government in the Central Intelligence Agency. So I did that. I applied. I went through all the training. It was very intensive training. And I managed to be successful and became a very successful operations officer. I spent my time in the US supervising operations in around the world that had to do with preventing and monitoring the distribution of weapons of mass destruction and associated uh, equipment, software, chemicals, things like that. So I did that and until about 2009. And then my wife and I decided to go back overseas. This time we went to Thailand, where she was teaching English at a private school in Bangkok. And I was teaching scuba diving. So we did that for 3 years. And then we went to Indonesia because after 3 years she was done. You know, they like to have new teachers come in. So she went ahead and took another job in Balikpapan, Indonesia. And we went there together. While we were there, we decided to separate. And so I came back to the US. And I was in the US for about a year, maybe 2 years. And the guy I used to work for wanted me to go back to Islamabad and be head of security for the construction company that was building the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad. So I went back there. My job was to make sure and do training programs to keep all the U.S. employees safe, because you have a construction worker who's used to working in the U.S., making $25,000-$30,000 a year, all of a sudden finds himself in Islamabad doing pretty much the same work, but having no clue as to the environment that he's in. So it was my job to help train them to keep them secure and safe. So I did that for about a year, came back to the US for about 6 months, I think, or 7 months. And then I went back to overseas. I went to Uganda, where I became the general manager of the third largest security company in Uganda. And I did that for a year. And then I came back to the US in December of 2019 because I was told I had a job here. Unfortunately, between the time I got on the plane and the time I got off the plane, the company dissolved and my job went away. So since then, I've been working in various fields of private investigations and security. And that brings us today up today. My book is out. I just wrote a book called Human for Humanity. It's a book that talks about the places that my family and I traveled to, and the eyes of it through my, what did my wife experience in New Delhi? What did my daughters experience? Things like that. And it does talk somewhat about the work when I was in the CIA. Mostly it doesn't talk about what I did. I can't talk about that, obviously, but the people and how amazingly competent they are, how hardworking they are. So it talks about that a little bit. And then I have my daughter, my youngest daughter, write the last chapter so you could see the world through her eyes and where we lived and where we traveled to and what I was doing. So she wrote the last chapter of the book. And here we are today.
Amazing. Like it's really interesting about your life, and which excites me the most that you traveled many countries, and different countries, and like you were traveling to a country and then you were coming back to the US, then you're traveling to another country, then you're coming back to the US. It's really amazing and interesting. And when we travel to, and we used to travel to different countries, we are allowing ourselves to open our mind for them, and and we see their culture, we see how they do their work, how they spend their, how they are spending their lives. So all that is really interesting. And human for humanity, I would say we are going to uncover a chapter, your experiences in Pakistan. That chapter we are going to uncover from your book. So I'm also going on that. But before coming at this point, I would like to ask that what is the biggest reason behind doing these different kind of jobs? Why didn't you stick to the one job?
Well, the very last sentence of my book will answer that question. The last sentence is cry havoc and let slip the dogs of adventure. That's a modification of Shakespeare's book, his book Julius Caesar, where Mark Antony says, "Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war." I don't want war. I want adventure. And so, because I was always willing to go any place and pretty much do anything, that made me very attractive for different companies that wanted to send somebody overseas, and I was always willing to do it, and I was driven to do that in part because of my family in Ohio. I was not very fond of most of them and the mess that they made of things. So I just always like to be have taking on new adventures and traveling to new countries and coming up with different programs to protect people or protect companies or protect facilities. So I've been in security of one shape or the other for a long time. So it just all seemed to meld together very well, and I never hesitated. No one ever had to wonder if I was going to accept a job assignment overseas. They all knew the answer to that question.
That is really amazing, and that is very appropriate answer, I would say. That you travel to the different country and you used to um apply different kind of jobs, before because to do adventure, to learn about other countries, to travel different countries, that was the biggest reason. That is really amazing. And I would say we all have to do that. We all have to travel to the world. We all have to, we just don't have to watch reels about Pakistan, that Pakistan is unsafe country and all that. We have to visit there. That is this really an unsafe country, or they are just doing, they are speaking nonsense, all that. they are, you know, like spreading negativity about Pakistan. When you will travel here, when you will, and we will obviously will do a warm welcome to you. And when you will visit here, then you will come to know that no, this is not really, that is all just nonsense. So yeah, that is a great thing which you've mentioned. Okay, so you have worked for India, you know, the third largest company in India. What you worked for that, and then you came to the Pakistan. You were supposed to provide your, you know, you were doing job to protect the workers who were doing construction work, right there. So, which work benefited you the most? The work you did in Pakistan or the work which you did in India?
Well, they were very different jobs in very different times of my life. India was the first opportunity I had to go back overseas as a working for a private company. Um, and I think that I benefited from that. My family benefited from that. Um, it was my wife's first experience overseas. So, New Delhi in 1985, 87, 80, 88, maybe. No, 90. New Delhi in 1990 is not the same as New Delhi is today. So, I can't really say that I benefited specifically. My family benefited from the ability to see those things. I mean, my daughters complained because we went to visit the Taj Mahal so many times because people would come to visit, and you got to go see the Taj Mahal. That's just one of those things. And so they would fuss a little bit, just like when we were living in the Middle East and we would go see the pyramids because people would come to visit. And, if you're going to be in the Middle East, going to Cairo is not that hard. So we would go visit the pyramids. I think we went to the pyramids 4 or 5 times. And again, my daughter's like, "Oh, do we have to go again?" So, it's all on how you take the benefit. And then when I went to Pakistan, one of the issues was how long it takes to get a residence visa. And so we were obligated to leave the country, I believe, every 30 days. And so we would fly to Dubai typically, and for a week's vacation and then fly back. And it was always nice when I could fly one of my girlfriends to Dubai to meet me there. And so we would spend a nice week together. And then I'd come back to Islamabad. So it's difficult to say which one benefited me the most. I think I did a good job for everybody, and I think everybody treated me fairly. Um, I enjoyed my time in Islamabad, just I enjoyed my time in New Delhi. Um, the people that I worked with were very friendly and very helpful and very nice. As I mentioned earlier, we lived on a compound, um, and there were some strict rules that on where we could and couldn't go, just to protect us. And so, you go Sunday, you go to the grocery store, you do your shopping, and the other 6 days of the week you're working. And so that's what I was doing most of the time. And again, I interacted a lot with the Pakistan workers because I was in charge of making sure that they got into the facility both securely and without any type of contraband, and they didn't take any out with them. So I was responsible for the security that way as well. So it was an interesting. One didn't benefit me particularly more than the other, um, and I enjoyed working them all.
Okay, that is really amazing. Okay, you're mentioning about New Delhi, and New Delhi is such a nice place, in India, and you know many places are in India and Pakistan are, they are very similar. And if we see the picture of any place of any shop of New Delhi, so sometimes it finds very difficult for us to figure out that which country is this, is this Pakistan or India, that much similarities are there between India and Pakistan. And so let's forget about beneficial benefit. Let's talk on in which country you enjoyed the most, in Pakistan or India.
Again, you're asking for a distinction where there is no difference, and it goes to why I was there. When I was when we were in New Delhi, um, my wife and my two daughters were pretty well taken care of. We had a nice house. We had a driver. We had a sweeper. We had a cook. So it was a pretty good life for the 3 years that we were there. And then when I was in Islamabad, I was living, as you know, close to the embassy, in that secure compound, where all the apartments and all the thing was for several of the embassies. So, I enjoyed working there as well. I had a great boss, great supervisors, worked closely with the embassy staff, and they were all very friendly. It was not as nice socially in Islamabad as it was in India because I was divorced by then, and I was, basically living alone. Whereas in New Delhi, I was with my wife and my two daughters who were quite young then. So, nonetheless, I still greatly enjoyed Islamabad because of the people I was working with, the locals who were head of security that I worked with. We got along very well, and they were very pleasant, friendly to work with. So I really, again, you're making a distinction where there is no difference. I like them both very much. I benefited in different ways. I benefited financially from being in Islamabad, but I didn't have a family, and so all those things came together, and it was a good experience. I enjoyed it very much. Um, and then same thing in India. It was a good experience for my now ex-wife. She enjoyed it. She adjusted, and she, let me tell you, for the first being the first country you go to overseas, or the first place you're going to live overseas, New Delhi is not the easiest place to live if you've never lived any place outside of the United States. But she did a great job.
Okay, amazing. In the conclusion, we got into this result that both countries are great, according to them, and they're as themselves, they're very good at their hospitality, their services. And the thing which I believe that the pupils who are living with luxury, who are spending their luxury life in other countries, and when they visit Pakistan and India, and most particularly India, so the difficulties which they face are incredible. That is very difficult part of their life which they get in India or in Pakistan, because it becomes very difficult for them to survive with those pupils. They just, when they see an American person coming to them, they just immediately start talking to them and teasing to them, that kind of thing. So did you ever face any language issues in Pakistan or India or in any country?
Well, no, because yes and no. I am not a natural linguist, but when I was in Tunisia, I learned to speak Tunisian Arabic. When I was in Gabon, I learned to speak French. So I had that background. And in India, the native language, the national language rather, is Hindi. And excuse me, the national language is English, just like in Pakistan. That doesn't mean that's what everybody spoke. And again, to my ex-wife's great credit, she learned to speak enough Hindi where she could go to the market and say, I want two of those and three of these, and how much is that? Basic things like that. She learned to communicate in Hindi, and learning the local language is very important. When I didn't do it. I didn't have time. I didn't need it. Everything I did was in English. Everybody spoke to me in English in India, so there were no issues. Then you fast forward, a number of years, and I'm in Pakistan, and once again, everybody pretty much speaks English, and I speak enough. Obviously, I know Islam because I lived in Islamic countries, and so it's very easy to say, Eid Mubarak, because Ramadan has started. Ramadan Mabruk, whatever, Sabah Khair, Shnawalik, Labas Alik, things of those kinds of phrases were very easy for me. So I didn't really run into that problem, and most of the stores that I went to in Islamabad, they spoke enough English that there were never any issues, because they liked our money. Let's be honest. So the grocery stores that we went to, I forget what it was called. There was one very big grocery store that was open on Sundays, and that's where we all went, pretty much. And so there were no language issues there. The Pakistanis that I worked with, they all spoke excellent English. And so as we're going through the security process where people are coming onto the compound and we're screening them, I was not the principal screener. My job was to supervise the screeners. So I would just keep an eye on them and make sure everybody was getting properly screened before they were allowed into the compound. So there were no real issues. There were no real language barriers. When you got away from the diplomatic center of Islamabad, you could get some different language issues, but by and large, I didn't really have a problem with that. One of the things that I learned in my experience was how to listen. And you can learn a lot when you listen to somebody, even if they're not speaking good English, you listen. And I also learned that I need to speak clearly. I hope that you're understanding me okay and that your audience understands me, because I try very hard to speak clearly, because I spent so many years in foreign countries where if I'm speaking English, I have to speak perfect English. It has to be very clear. So that makes it easier for the other person to understand what I'm saying. So no, I never really ran into any particular language barriers. Keep in mind, I didn't travel outside of Islamabad. Very rarely. I think we made a couple of trips just to test the evacuation system in case we had to evacuate the employees. But again, I had my partner with me who was a local Pakistani. I think he was a former police officer, if I recall correctly. So uh, again, we were all well treated. I was well treated, and so there weren't any issues, language or otherwise.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And after doing podcasts with some people who have very difficult British accent, I just uh, not find that difficult to figure out what they are saying. To figure their their accent. Anyways, and yeah, that is very important, and not in only in English. If if we are speaking in Urdu, in Arabic, in any language, that is very important to speak clearly, to you know that your words which are coming out from your mouth are very clear, and the person who is sitting in the front of you, the next to you, can easily understand that. So that is the main thing in communication as well. So, Jeffrey, we are still on traveling, and you know on your that part of your life which where you traveled to the country. Do you believe to get out of your comfort zone, you know the way you use for this is to travel countries, to travel from all over the world? Do you believe?
I spent so much time outside of my comfort zone that I don't think I have one anymore. And again, the comfort zone it's an abstract concept. A comfort zone is where I feel safe and secure. Let's define it that way. And I feel safe and secure pretty much anywhere that I've been to. Even now when I travel, of course, part of that is my burden to make sure that I'm traveling in a safe and secure fashion. I remember traveling to Yemen, and I flew into Sana'a, and I was going to meet an executive with the Laban cell, I believe. And he was south of Sana'a, about 8 hours on the road. And I'm not sure how much you know about roads in Sana'a, but it goes down the spine of that mountain range, and it was scary. But I never felt unsafe. For part of the drive, you go through a checkpoint every now and again, and at one of the checkpoints, the military decided to put a soldier in the car with us because I had two guys up front and I was in the back. They put a soldier in the back with me just for that little bit of extra security. And okay, that's great. The bigger hazard for me was traffic related, because as you're driving down this road along the spine of the mountains in Yemen, and you look down the mountain and you can see the last car that missed the turn and went rolling down the hillside. So 300 meters down, you see a burned out car. So that was a greater fear for me than fear of being harmed or attacked whenever I was in most countries, whether it was Yemen or Pakistan. The issue of traffic, and you have a much greater risk of accidents and being hurt in an accident, or at least I did. Again, this is because I used good security practices. You don't go out late at night. There were employees of the construction company that decided it would be okay to date Pakistani women, and the government didn't really like that because most of the construction workers were Christian, and as I'm sure you know, Pakistani women were Muslim, and so the potential for a conflict was there, and that upset the Pakistani government. And those construction workers were gone the next day. They were put on a plane and sent home. So they weren't really thinking right on how to remain secure and appropriate in the country, and I didn't have a problem with that.
Okay, that is amazing. So you've mentioned that you were out from your comfort zone. So like you were already out of your comfort zone. So you don't think so. But the thing which just immediately came into my mind, that we were watching a TED talk yesterday. She was like literally, talking about Yemen. She said when she visited Yemen, there were pupils yelling, and there were guns in their hands, and they were doing gun shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So she was very afraid. But when she called to one of her partner the day after that incident, she came to know that that was a wedding. That was a wedding celebration. They were not pupils, that can harm her. But as she were thinking about that, so any kind of that kind of incident happened with you in Yemen?
Well, yeah, and I think it was Islamabad and New Delhi that during the major celebrations and the major festivals, whether it be a wedding or what have you, wasn't so much common in India because you didn't have many civilians with weapons and you didn't have the armed security type situations that you have in Pakistan when I was there, where, yeah, people shoot bullets in the air. The problem with shooting a bullet up in the air is that it has to come back down someplace. And so you don't want to be where that bullet comes back down. And that's the issue with, you want to celebrate by shooting rifles off in the air. That's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. But where's that bullet going to go? And I know of different circumstances, certainly in the US, where someone fires a gun, their rifle, and the bullet travels. You can't imagine how far a bullet will travel. And it will end up striking someone and killing them or injuring them because nothing stops its path. So we just have to be very careful with firearms. And so I think at the New Year's celebration, as I recall correctly, we were directed to stay inside at night, just because we didn't want the rain of bullets that somebody, 3 kilometers away is shooting into the air. Yeah, it may not bother them, but that bullet's got to come down someplace, and you don't want to be there when it lands.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that could be an New Year celebration. Mostly people's do bullet fires, and New Year celebration, and they have to make bullets in such way that when they shoot the bullet, so the bullet has to be disappear, decompose kind of thing, so that it can't come back into the ground and cannot harm any person. But if they are shooting the bullets into the air, so it could harm any bird also, you know so this concept is completely very negative, and we have to remove this, and we have to work on this, that is very dangerous, and that could be very dangerous for you know for pupils. As you were mentioning about the roads in Yemen, we the thing where we already agreed on, that the roads on in USA are very amazing, and we always appreciate the roads, the places in USA. They are amazing, nice and smooth roads in USA. And you know they are the USA's roads are appreciation, inspiration for other countries as well. So Jeffrey, you've tried many fields, in your life so far. So which thing you find that is that you're supposed to think that this thing is made for me as a career?
Well, I love scuba diving. I'm a scuba diving instructor, and the best scuba diving that I've ever had was in Thailand. And so again, it depends on what thing you're looking for. It depends on where you are in your stage of your life. I'm going to venture that you are significantly younger than I am, and that you have much of your life ahead of you yet. And so you have many, many different types of opportunities, and I would encourage you to take advantage of them and to be fearless going forward at every opportunity. Being fearless is not the same as being stupid. Okay, there's a big difference. Um, so you want to be fearless, but you also want to be smart, and you want to make sure that whatever you're doing going forward, you're doing it in a smart fashion, so that if something goes south, something goes wrong, you have the wherewithal and the facilities in place that will allow you to compensate and correct. And so that's the difference. That's where you can be fearless, but you can't be stupid. And it's not that I'm not fearless. It's so funny. My youngest daughter, for her 18th birthday, wanted to go skydiving, and I was more than happy to let my ex-wife go skydiving with our daughter, because I really didn't want to jump out of a perfectly good plane. I'll go underwater, 100 feet, 100 feet down, whatever, 30, 40 meters, but I'm not a big fan of jumping out of airplanes. So we all have our little fears, and we have to respect them. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't go forward in trying everything that we can. And it's only by pushing ourselves where we are willing to accept the possibility of failure or accept failure, um, that we should do that. Because if you're not willing to accept, if you're not willing to fail, if you're not willing to try hard enough and take failure as a risk, then again, you're not really pushing yourself very hard. You got to push yourself to the point of failure. That's what they have with lots of equipment, lots of any kind of equipment or steel or things like that. Everything has a point of failure. And the thing is, if you don't know what that point is, then how do you know what you can do? So you push yourself to the point of failure.
Amazing. That is such an amazing message. And yeah, we have to try, and we have to be fearless with with failure. We don't have to consider failure as a fear for us. Do- not at all, because failure is a part of your life. And you know th- I don't think so there's any person in the world exists who never face any kind of failure in his or in her life. So we all face challenges, we all face failures, but that is not here that we have to afraid of that. So, Jeffrey, how many countries have you visited till now?
I think I counted once, and I think it was 33. Because I've been all over the Middle East. I've been to probably 10 in Africa. I've been to uh, 7 or 8 in Asia. I've been to most of Europe, Western Europe. So I think it's somewhere between 35 and 40, I think. And it's fascinating work. I love it very much. I loved it very much. I think being able to travel and see the different parts of the world and embrace and respect the different parts of the world teaches the people there to respect you. If I'm going to disrespect, if I come to Pakistan, I come to Islamabad, and I'm disrespecting Islamabad, what are they going to do to me? What's a Pakistani going to do to me? Is he going to respect me? No, of course not. So it's very important that we be respectful in the places that we visit. That doesn't mean we have to necessarily agree with or like everything about them, but we have to respect them.
Yeah, exactly, Jeffrey. Exactly. We have to be very respectful with every country, whether we like it or not, that has our own disliking and liking matter, but we have to be respectful with them, because of course if you're not respectful with them, so they are not respectful with you. And so you have visited almost 40 countries, till now. Do you have any kind of goal related to traveling, for the next years, for the next decades?
Well, my second wife is Ugandan, and so we just got back from Uganda. We were there in January, and I suspect she is, and maybe both of us will be going back in November. Um, I don't have any aspirations to visit someplace. There's no place that I haven't visited. There's no place that I've wanted to visit that I haven't visited. My family came from Germany and Scotland. We did a great tour of Scotland when we lived in Abu Dhabi. I've been to a couple of different places in Germany. I had a girlfriend there, so I think she was on Ramstein Air Base in Germany, so I went and visited her. We spent some time traveling. So there's 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 really no place that I haven't visited that I want to go to. That doesn't mean, I love the Bahamas. I love going there. Again, scuba diving there is great. I've been to the Cayman Islands. It's beautiful, beautiful beaches. Thailand is an amazing country. Beautiful everything, beautiful women, beautiful beaches, beautiful oceans, everything there, and beautiful food. The Thai food is amazing. So, those are great places. And I wouldn't hesitate to go back. There's really no place that I've been to that I would hesitate to go back to. Except maybe, I'm not wild about Nigeria. It's very crowded. There's a couple other places in that part of Africa that they don't really offer me a lot. So I'm not anxious to go back there. But I would love to go back to Uganda. I'd like to go to Tanzania and go on some of the big game preserves that they have there and in Kenya. Um, so things like that. But no, I've traveled a lot already. I know what it means to travel, and I know what it means to have jet lag and be very tired for a while. So I don't have any big aspirations to travel. I would, of course, be willing to travel. I'm not afraid to travel, as I said. I'll pretty much go any place. So we'll just have to see what the future holds.
Amazing. I'm meeting first time with that person who is saying that I don't have any kind of aspirations to visit to any other country, because I already have visited the places where I wanted to visit. And that is such an awesome and incredible thing. May God provide this opportunity to everyone, to visit the countries, to visit the places where they want to visit. That is such an amazing opportunity if any person have as Jeffrey Sanow, had this opportunity. That is such an amazing. So Jeffrey, you have visited how many, visited the countries you have visited? What are the things you have learned um by your traveling?
I've learned that people, for the most part, are the same. Are your parents still alive, if I may ask?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Praise God. They want the best for you. I'm sure of that. All parents want the best for their children. I want the best for my children. I want the best for my grandchildren. I want to have a secure house. I want to be able to go to sleep at night. Um, I want to be able to have enough food to eat. I want to be able to have enough water to drink. So all of these things are pretty much the same aspirations that everybody has. Your parents want the same thing. They want you to be successful. They want you to be healthy. They want you to be happy. I don't know if you have a wife or a girlfriend, but they want you to marry somebody who's good for you. And so the bottom line is that's what everybody wants, no matter what tribe they're from, or what culture they're from, or what country they're from. Everybody wants their kids to do well. Everybody wants their wife or husband to be healthy and live a long life. Now, that's not to say that everybody's perfect. No, we're not. I'm certainly not. Just ask my ex-wife. I'm not perfect. But we all pretty much want the same things. Your parents want the same things for you that I want for my two daughters and grandchildren. So that's where people are pretty much the same. Unfortunately, this breaks down when we start treating people who are different from us differently. I would expect my daughter to treat you with the same respect that I would expect you to treat her. And my daughter's a tall, beautiful blonde girl. And okay, you're probably not tall and you're certainly not blonde. So, yeah, we fall into this trap of tribalism. And I saw some of that in the different places of Africa that I was in. And me being your basic white boy, I can't tell one African tribe from another. They all look the same to me. They're all black. So they do look different to them, though. And just because someone is different from us doesn't mean we can treat them with any less respect. That's one of the big lessons that I've learned. And I should treat you with the same respect. You should treat me with the same respect. My wife is Ugandan and about that tall. She deserves respect. My daughter is a beautiful blonde woman, 30 something years old. She needs to be treated with respect. You need to be treated with respect. And I think if we focus on respecting each other, that our differences will fade into the background. It's when we refuse to respect each other that we have problems, and we need to get better at that.
Exactly, exactly. What an amazing lesson. And I would say that, you know, that is such an amazing and very nice lesson you've shared with us. The one of the biggest wisdom you've got after visiting and after traveling from all over the world. And you know that is such an amazing that we have to give the same and equal respect to the people. No matter, we don't have to judge people by their, you know, that said, that quote, which we have, that don't judge people, or don't judge books by its cover. You know we don't have to judge people by their colors, by their, we don't have to respect them by the languages, by the color. If they are white, so then we are very respectful to them. If they are black, so we are just hiding from them, and protecting ourselves from them. So that is very unfair. We have to give equal respect to each and every person who is living in this world, because every person has came into this world with the purpose behind. Our creator doesn't created any person without any purpose. We all have purpose in this world. Even an insect which is under the rock, that insect even have also a purpose behind coming in this world. So, and I hope that all these things are mentioned in your book, Human for Humanity.
Yes, well, they talk about a lot of different places that I've seen. I love Oman. Oman is a wonderful country, and I remember reading about reading the book Sinbad Sailor or 1001 Arabian Nights. Those were just such fascinating books when I was growing up, and a lot of those come out of Oman. I talk about Lebanon. I think you're maybe a little bit young to remember Whitney Houston. When she came out, she was beautiful, talented, and 4 or 5 years ago, she drowned in the bathtub because she was on too many drugs. Lebanon is the same way. Lebanon used to be the pearl of the Middle East. It had a great mixing of cultures. You had the French influence, you have the Arabic influence, you have the Turkish influence, you have the Iranian influence. And this mixing of cultures in a free society lets the best part of it come to the top. Unfortunately, then about 1985, they had a civil war, and it ended about 2000, but still they have lots of problems. And right now you have the terrorist groups that are there, and you have Israel bombing them, and it's just very messy. Kind of like the way Whitney Houston died. It was just kind of messy.
Exactly, Jeffrey. And we are hoping that that war will be end soon, and will ended up with peace with both countries. And like, we are supporters of Palestine, but we don't have to blame that much on Israel. We have to develop a peace, a judge a justice, sorry, a justice between both, each and every country. And I hope that the war will be ended up with the peace with both countries. And um may God happen this. And I strongly recommend, if your book is available on any online website, so that
Amazon.
the listeners can read.
It's
Amazon.
available on Amazon.
Amazon. I strongly recommend to get this book, Human for Humanity. I just fell in love with the name, Human for Humanity. Amazing, such an amazing title. And he mentioned all the things, each and everything which he got after visiting the countries, and all the experiences he had while traveling there. All the things are mentioned there. I strongly recommend to get that book from Amazon store, and you will be like, you will be enjoying reading this book. And he mentioned and he shared already, like, many, he we covered already many chapters from his book during this live session. And such an amazing conversation I had with Jeffrey Sanow. And I'm truly um you know and I'm in gratitude towards Jeffrey, that he granted me his precious and valuable time for this conversation. Although I'm doing fasting, and I don't, and I can't even speak that much, but because the conversation was very engaging, I was supposed to take this conversation till the time which we have now. Currently, 5:55 are past, and I just didn't realize. So thank you so much, viewers, for watching us. Inshallah, meet you soon with another amazing podcast, with another amazing guest, and with another amazing topic, an important topic, as I always bring such topics which we are over and underestimating. Till then, stay peace and take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.